Hello and welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Football RPG Podcast. I'm your host, David. Today, flying solo for the first time. There may be some technical difficulties, like, for example, I forgot to add myself to the stage, so hopefully that's the only hiccup we have here as we talk about Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, for those getting into the fantasy football scene, maybe this is your first year really focusing on it, Marvin Harrison Jr., coming out of college, was considered to be a generational prospect. We're talking about that Jamar Chase level guy where you plug him in, he's a star right away. Selected fourth overall by the Arizona Cardinals in a class loaded with wide receiver talent, he was supposed to be the best of the best, the cream of the crop. And let's see, did that happen? Well, and this here is courtesy of our friends at Football Guys. Here are the finishes for wide receivers. This is just wide receivers. And we got to keep scrolling down a little bit. All the way down, you can see, hey, look, Brian Thomas Jr., a rookie. Malik Neighbors, a rookie. Ladd McConkey, a rookie at 14. Still no Marvin Harrison until you get all the way down to wide receiver 30. That's not really what you signed up for. He finished the year here with 62 receptions for 885 yards and 8 touchdowns. Honestly, most of the time, this is a respectable finish for a rookie, but Marvin Harrison Jr. came with a lot of expectations, and the fact that Neighbors, Thomas, and McConkey outperformed him, that has people pretty low on him, relatively speaking, going into the upcoming season. So when we see something like that, the first thing we need to ask is, what happened? And the best way to do that is to look at Player Profiler or really any advanced data website out there. I like these guys. And see, well, were they using him properly? So we look at the opportunity because in fantasy football, volume is king. He had a 22.2% target share. Pretty happy with that, pretty solid, but we all know that targets are not created equally. You're throwing the ball down the field, you're going to get more fantasy points than if you get a 5-yard reception. You score a touchdown, that's more valuable, obviously. So then I look down at his air yards, and good Lord, 1,566 air yards, the 6th most in the league. And it's not like the Cardinals were just chucking the ball down the field all the time and he got inflated numbers that way. His 42.3% air yard share is 7th best in the league. That shows the Cardinals really wanted to get him the ball. They really wanted to get it to him downfield. And generally with usage like this, you'd expect greatness in fantasy football. So why didn't that happen? The first thing you have to look at is Marvin Harrison Jr. himself. The Cardinals obviously thought he was a great player. They took him 4th overall. I thought he was a great player. He was my wide receiver 1 in the class at the time. But, scouting is an imperfect science. Maybe we all just got it wrong. Maybe he's not as good in the NFL as he was in college. So this requires looking at the film. Personally, I thought he had a pretty solid rookie season. Pro Football Focus agrees with me. This is their grades for him on the season. He finished with a 77.7 overall grade. 27th best out of 133 wide receivers. Now, before you get into the comments, yes, Neighbors and Thomas were better last year. I have them higher on my rankings right now than I do Harrison, but this shows he was still good. This is something you are really happy to have. If you have the 27th best receiver as a rookie, you're thinking, awesome, that's fantastic. So then you need to ask, well, maybe it's Kyler Murray. And I don't have that tab pulled up, but I did write an article about it on Last Word on Sports. Make sure to check that out. Kyler Murray finished with a pretty good PFF deep passing grade, which they define as passes that went 20 or more yards in the air. He finished with, I think it was in the high 70s. So that's something, again, that's a good number. And throughout the course of Kyler's career, he's generally been a pretty good deep ball passer. He had a rough year in 2022 when he tore his ACL. But aside from that, he's generally been an above average deep passer. You can say what you want about his overall game, but that is a strength. So we know the Cardinals want to throw it to Marvin Harrison deep. We know Marvin Harrison has the skills to do it, and he proved that last year in the NFL with a good PFF grade. And we know Kyler Murray can throw it deep. So why hasn't it happened? My bet is that it's just a matter of chemistry. These guys, hey, talent is talent. That's what you want to see. But at the end of the day, what comes down to, these guys need to be on the same page. Clearly, they weren't quite there last year, but even with that being said, I expect it to grow. This generally happens with guys in year 2. Marvin Harrison's been there an entire offseason. He's used to the NFL. Kyler's been there. They've had an entire couple months, couple years to really iron out the issues. So they're in a really good position to go in next year and have a strong season. So Now we need to talk about Marvin Harrison's value relative to the rest of the league. I'm recording this late June, so it's obviously going to change a little bit over the next couple months. But if you look at Fantasy Calc's average draft position, in these guys, you can see it right here, it's automatically generated from real fantasy football leagues. So this isn't someone's opinion. This is data based on what's happening in real leagues right now. Marvin Harrison Jr. is the wide receiver 12. Just ahead of him are Drake London and McConkey. Just below him, Garrett Wilson and Rashee Rice. Personally, I think that's a pretty good place to find him. Kyler's biggest weakness as a quarterback is he doesn't throw that many touchdowns. His career high is 26. He's just not a great red zone quarterback. He's usually running it or just missing guys. That is probably the big downside with him being as short as he is. He's not going to get those touchdowns. So if you want Marvin Harrison to finish as a top 5 receiver, you can't really project double-digit touchdowns. You'd need to assume he's getting like a 30+% target share. I don't feel comfortable doing that. Like I said, I think we're a little too hard on him, certain corners on the internet. But at the end of the day, jumping from 22% target share up into the 30s, that would be pretty unprecedented. It's within the realm of possibilities. I'm not going to bet on it. I think he's going to end in the mid to high 20s, so probably like 27, 28% target share, getting deep looks down the field. To me, that's the recipe for a low-end wide receiver 1. If some touchdowns fall his way, maybe he breaks a long play or two more than I'm expecting him, then I think he has a path to a top 5-ish finish. But personally, right now, I'm putting him in that wide receiver 8 to wide receiver 12 bucket. Drake London, he has a new quarterback in Phoenix. They were unstoppable together. It was a 3-game sample. But if that happens, I think London's a really good value right now. McConkey kind of just like, he had a fantastic rookie season. Don't hear what I'm not saying. But a lot of that was there was nobody else around. Trey Harris might eat into his workload a little bit more. Harbaugh has the offense to really run the ball now, so there might be fewer targets. I like him at wide receiver 11, wide receiver 12. Garrett Wilson, him I'm a little worried about this year. There's no target competition, which is always a good thing. But Justin Fields is the quarterback. He doesn't throw the ball that much, so I think his ceiling's a little limited. I'd much rather have Marvin Harrison Jr. Rashee Rice is the ultimate wild card there, wide receiver 14. If you promised me 17 games, I'd be drafting him probably just after Puka or Nico on that list. The only problem is he could face a suspension. It doesn't seem likely, but it's still on the table, and he's coming back from an injury. At this point in the offseason, we don't really know how he looks. We don't realistically know what to expect. Every timeline you hear is probably a little bit optimistic. That tends to be how the offseason goes. So when you factor in that risk, yeah, I'd probably put him just a little bit under Marv, but if you want to take him before, I can't deny the upside is there. So guys, I hope this really helped you out. If it did, please drop a like, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below. If it didn't, also leave a comment down below telling me I suck. The algorithm doesn't know the difference. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. Have a great one. Actually, I need to set the outro video, so let's end that.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Football RPG Podcast. If you made it this far, be sure to like and subscribe. If you want to check out written content, head over to lastwordonsports.com.